Right. Welcome again to today's episode, I would say. And today we'll be looking at how to implement MERN stack on AWS EC2 instance. As you can see, I have an instance running, and here you can see this is the application. You can see I have to, so I can say testing. I can add this. You can see it's here already, right? So I can delete, as you can see, can delete. So this is what we are going to be working on how to deploy a MERN stack application, which is um, MongoDB database, Express backend, React frontend, and Node as the JavaScript environment where the server will be running. Um, to make the entire so basically the job of a DevOps engineer or a cloud engineer is actually to take a finished software and deploy them on a cloud environment. So because of this, we will not really be burdening ourselves how the software is being made, the technology behind it, how to write the software and everything. We basically be focusing on how to take the piece of software that has been developed and deploy it on a cloud environment. So I'll be taking us through the process of which we'll be able to deploy a full stack application which is using MERN stack on the cloud. So back to my instance. So for this particular instance, so that for us to start from scratch, I'll be stopping this instance. I'll be deleting it so that you can see how the entire process from scratch. So I'm currently stopping my instance. Then I'll be terminating it once that's been stopped. Okay, so while that is doing its own thing, so let's launch a new instance. You can call it, let's call it, you can call it any name you like. So I can just call it a sample. Let's just call it to do app, right? Let's just call it to do app. So because our application is actually a to do app, so I'm picking Ubuntu. Let's stick with this Ubuntu. Um, yes, the instance type is okay. I'm going to use my current or saved uh, key pair, right? I'm going to use an existing security group, given the fact that I've done some interesting setup on that. So I'm launching this. So while we are waiting for that, and go back here. Now, for a MERN stack, we are using MongoDB. Ideally, you have a choice of whether setting up your own MongoDB on your instance or using an external service called Mongo Atlas. But I feel it's more it's it's it will go a long way if we can actually incorporate setting up our own MongoDB on our own EC2 instance, just the way we did in LambStack, where we have our MySQL instance or database directly on the EC2, to have a more closely coupled system, right? So that will not be depending on an external service and stuff like that, managing all those complexity anyway. So what we'll be doing today is setting up everything on our EC2 instance. Now, For MongoDB runs on port 27 27017, right? And I think basically the backend actually runs on port 5000, which is basically if you go back to, if you probably review the the back what do you call it, back end code where the server was declared, you will see that port 5000 was used as the port, you know, or in case you want to change it to other port and everything, depends on what your environment will be anyway. But because I'm going to be using port 5000 for this, I also have to enable the port 5000 on the EC2 instance. So if we go to security, under security group, and we look at our inbound rule, right, you will notice that I've set up the port 5000 and I make it public for anybody to be able to access my website. Then at the same time, you also notice that I have also enabled the port 27017 for the, which is actually be responsible for the MongoDB. But I've actually restricted this to my current IP address, which means that I don't want anybody to have access to be able to log in into my MongoDB apart from myself. Just more of a security measure that I've put in place. Every other configuration remains the same, as you can see. So since I've not made any changes, so I'm not really saving. So let's go back to our instance. As you can see, now we are going to be following up. We are going to be following up my documentation for this project, which I've documented. As you can see, we will be implementing MERN stack on AWS instance EC2 with a self-hosted MongoDB. Basically, we are saying that we'll be the one hosting our whole MongoDB database. We will not be using external service for that. Now, so for us to start, I have to click on connect. Then I have to copy this. I don't need to do this because I'm using an existing key pair which is already on my system. So I will just all right, let me just start another terminal session. So I can just go to where I have my key pair, cd dev, then I can paste what I've copied. Yes. Good. So I'm currently inside my instance. Sorry for that mistake. So the first thing we want to do is install a MongoDB database on our instance. And for us to do that, let's go back to my documentation, right? First thing you need to do is to import the public key for the MongoDB package, which is using this code. So let me just copy this, then come to my instance, paste, press enter. Then the next is to create a MongoDB source list file. So we'll do that by copying this. Then the last is the next is to update and install the package list and install the MongoDB. So let me update. Okay, since I know how to update, let me just copy this first. So I can just do sudo apt. Can do apt or apt-get, then do updates. So I was waiting for it to finish. Right, so done. So after then I can do this. So we are currently installing the MongoDB, as you can see on the screen. Now, while that is going on, you'll be wondering, how do I know that these are the codes I needed to, to use to install this? If you go to, so I have the documentation here. If you click on this, it will take you to the official documentation on how to install the MongoDB Community Edition. And if you go through it, I'm using the 22.04 version of Ubuntu, even though I'm using 24, but since the 22 is closely related to the 24, I don't think they have any documentation for the latest Ubuntu. The current Ubuntu is 24.04. I don't think a lot of software vendors have actually, released latest package. But I noticed that the 22 also goes, work perfectly with the latest Ubuntu. So the first instruction that I copied is this. The second one that I copy is this. Then the third one is this, and the last one is this. So that's where I got that from. And as a DevOps engineer or cloud engineer, you should be able to read documentation of various vendor based on different packages or different software you are trying to install on your server. Now, let's copy this while we go and check if we are done with the installation. So go back to my instance. Okay, we are done. So I can do this. So I can paste this to start. So currently the MongoDB is running. But to ensure that the MongoDB will continue to run, even though when the system is being rebooted, the MongoDB service will be automatically started. We need to update or enable that to be added to the startup program, which has been done. So if you come back, if I do sudo systemctl status mongo, right? Let me see. I think MongoDB. Yes, you can see that it's currently running and is being um, enabled. So that is all about that. So let's go back to our documentation. Um, Ideally, if you want to access your MongoDB remotely, you probably need to enable the all IP by editing the MongoDB configuration and editing the bind IP session. But for security reason, it's not actually being is not advisable. But in case you want to access your server or your database from a remote location or what have you, the best you can do is to add a specific IP address or IP addresses of those remote servers you will be trying to access your database for. But for my case, I won't really need to touch this because I don't intend to access my database outside the EC2 instance. So we'll be skipping this. We'll be skipping this section. Then we'll be going back to create a unique database and a user, an admin user for the application we are trying to deploy. So to do that, I'm going to go to the MongoDB shell, as you can see. Then while in the shell, I'm going to change to the sample database that we are trying to create. So if I do this, I can switch to this. Then while there, I can create a user called sample to do user, which will be the admin, will be the one to read and write into the database through our application. It's always advisable not to use the admin user to create a unique database and a user for each of application you are trying to deploy. So sorry, so we can exit here. Let's test if what we have done is correct. We can test that. Okay, before then, we need to add a bit of security authorization to our configuration file, which will be done by copying this, right, to access the configuration file. And you just need to enable the security parts. This kind of give you kind of a extra security layer to our database. And then I copy this. All right, so I copy this. Then we paste and we save. Yes. Then let's test if everything is working fine. To do that, go back to the documentation. So this is the connection string, and if you can see it, it's saying MongoDB, right? The user column, the password that was set. If you look at this, you see that we set up a password, we set up a user at localhost because we are actually accessing this from the same machine where the MongoDB is installed. Then we column the port number slash the name of the database you are trying to access. Then we are adding our authorization source. So you are saying that we are authorizing this particular database for use. So to get access to check if everything is working, so I'm just going to do Mongo shell, then paste the string. Voila, everything is working fine. As you can see now, you can see that I'm already inside the what do you call it, inside the database. So you can ignore this for now. Um, there's no point because this is just for a test. I just kind of testing it for a kind of a production level, whatever. There's a lot of optimization you might probably need to do by changing the file system of your instance to a XFS file system and the likes. And these are just some control, access control, and some other stuff that you need to put into consideration. Anyway, so let's move forward. So, based on what we have done so far, we are done with the MongoDB parts, as you can see. So now we are moving to installing the node, which is the end part of the Node.js. To do that, we are going to start with calling the installation script, which will do this. This will fetch the necessary package list and the likes. Then, once that's done, you can install Node. Installation of Node is kind of straightforward, as you can see. Once I paste this, I can easily install the Node. That's all. Nothing really fancy. Then you can check if the node has been installed by doing node v. Then node we installed the npm package manager, so you can check that too. Right, so everything looks nice. Now let's go back to the next part of our. Now, for you to successfully run a node application continuously, even while you are not currently inside the instance, where your instance is running on the cloud, your application can continuously run. Even if there's an error in your application and the application crash, you won't need the system will automatically restart your application and it will run as far as the EC2 instance is running. Your application will continuously to run in the background. And to do that, we are going to install a package called Process Manager, which is the PM2 uh, package, and we are going to install it globally on the instance, which means that when we say we want to install globally, which means we are installing it inside the instance itself, not being attached to any particular project. So when we do this, we wait for it to install. So that is kind of straightforward. There's not really a big deal about that. So let's just wait. Now, if you remember, um, um, why Node will offer us a development server during development and the like, for us to be able to know, for us to be able to uh, let our application run directly on the port 80, which is the default port, we need to use our standard web server like NGS, Apache, and the likes. But we have to find a way of configuring the Apache to be able to communicate with the application server. You know, our JavaScript application cannot run directly on NGX, right? It has to run on a node in a node environment using the Node.js environment. However, for us to make it accessible to everybody on the internet, we have to use the Apache. We have to use the NGS Web Server by using the proxy server configuration for you to be able to communicate or direct all traffic to the node application server. So to do that, we need to install the NGS Web Server on our instance, right? Okay, so before we move forward, we are getting a notification here to update our npm package. So we are going to do sudo, then put the command here to upgrade that. Then while that is working, so we can copy this. So we need to install NGX Web Server. So to do that, just paste this, then go back. If you watch my previous video, you see that what I'm doing is similar to what we did with the lem stack. While we install the ngx, so we are going to install now. So while that is installing, the next thing is that we need to create a custom server configuration for our application, and we'll do that by creating a sample. So for this, I'll probably just create um, a to-do app, that sample to-do app. Call it whatever name you like, right? But so let's just say um, let's just stick with this. So inside, we are going to make some declaration, and what we are going to do is we are going to define a server which will be listening to port 80, and since we don't have a domain name, so we'll leave that blank. Then we are going to say for every traffic that come to the base URL, which is the localhost 80 or localhost, it should be routed back to the all traffic should be routed back to the localhost 5000, which is the web server for the node application, right? So that's basically what we are. So we are telling NGX that whenever you get a request, forward that request to the node server so that the node can respond to every request. So that's what we are trying to do. So we are going to copy and paste that here. Then we are going to save. And that's just all about it. Then we are going to activate the new configuration by copying that, paste. Then we are going to test the new configuration if what we did, if there's no error with our configuration file. As you can see, successful, there's no problem. Then we need to deactivate the default configuration. which is the configuration that comes with Nginx when we install it newly. Then we are going to restart our NGS server system ctl start Nginx file, and that's just all about that. Now to the main part of the app. So we have set up the entire base infrastructure to power our app. Now we are going to fetch the full application that we are trying to deploy on the server from GitHub, and we are going to do that. This is the application, right? This is the application. For you to deploy it, you need to clone it by clicking here, then copying the code or the URL here, then going back to your server, depends on whatever location. So you can do git clone, then paste the URL. Now, once you have done that, you need to cd into the folder. And the first thing you want to do is go to the client, then do sudo npm install to install the package. And when it's done, I want to do sudo npm run build, then wait for it to run. So the first part, we installed all the node packages for the front-end application, and once it's done, it's going to run the build command to be able to build our code for production. So let's just wait. So while we are waiting, let's just review some of the documentation again, right? So cd into the client. So once that is done, we are going to go back to the backend folder and we are going to do the same thing. So let's just wait for that to finish. I think, okay, so it's building it, it's optimizing for production as you can see. So let's just wait for it to finish. So let's just wait. All right, so you can go back to the backend. Then I can do sudo npm install to install the packages for the backend. Then while that is installing, we need to create a we need to create an environment, an env environment, that we are going to store our sensitive information like our port, our unique database string, and also to define the node environment we are working in, just to tell the application that we are working on the production environment, not on the development environment. So let's check if we are done with, okay. So we can do, while we are still in the backend, we can do this. Then you can come here and copy this, right? If you look at this, you discover that this string is the same as what we have when we created our MongoDB backend, our MongoDB database. Now, we need to ensure that the port is 5000, which is similar to what we configure in the NGS web server. So I'm going to save this, and that's just all about that. Then the next thing I want to do is to start the process manager. So I'm going to start this. What I'm going to do is I have to run this command while still inside the backend. And the reason why we are doing that is because the NVN file, right, is actually inside the backend folder. So once we run this command will detect that file, and it will allow the index.js file to be able to read the content of the env file for the environment variable. Command this, so I can start this. Now my application is running, but for me to ensure that this application will continue to run even when, so make your mp2 auto boot at server restart. So what I need to do is to do this. Then if you read through this, you will see that initiate system found, which has been done. To set up the startup script, copy and paste the following command. So I'm asked to copy and paste this command. So I copy, then I paste, I run it. Right? So it automatically set up that. Then I have to click and save. So let's click and save. Bam. Then I can do this mp2 list to see my system is running now. After that, I think that's the end of our setup. Then the next thing we want to do is launch our browser to see if our application is running as intended. So I'll come here, I'll do http tp slash, post my public IP and press enter. If everything goes well, this should work. Voila, it's working. Right, as you can see, everything is working. Now I can do this. Right, you can see this, I can delete. Right. Now, interestingly, to demonstrate why the mp2 is very important in this entire scenario. So if I chose to maybe stop my instance, for example, stop my instance for whatever reason, right? Now, because my instance is stopped, if you try to access the browser, you are going to run into an error. Right? It's trying to communicate, but it's not getting a feedback. You're going to run into an error. It's still trying to communicate. That's why you are seeing it is still rolling. Right? My application has stopped. So still trying to communicate. Right. Let me try it from another page. So it's still trying to communicate. If I try to send anything, I'm not going to get any response. Nothing will go, because at the moment it can't communicate with the server. And if you check you can see that I've already been logged out from the instance because the system has powered down. See, it's still struggling, it's still retrying. I'm quite sure it's trying to contact the instance. Right, it's still not getting through to it. I would have probably expected it to, yes. Now you can see it has failed. It can't contact the that. Now, so let's go back. Let's test. So let me bring back my instance. I just want to show you why the mp2, what the mp2 does for our setup. So it's initializing. See, still initializing. So let me see if I can log in into the instance. This time is still initializing. Still waiting for it. Once I can get into the shell, right, that means the server is ready to go. So just wait. Still waiting, still waiting. All right, let's try it again. Let me see. Should be fully running now. Why is it taking a bit of time? It's taking a bit of time. Let me be sure that my IP address has not changed. Let me just confirm just to be sure. This is my IP address 112.32. Let me just be sure. 112.32. So it has not changed, which means we should have access to the SSH anytime soon. But while we are waiting for that to fully power up, still initializing anyway. It's taking a bit of time to come up. Okay, fine. I think everything is fine now. I should be able to enter any moment from now. So let me see if that has filled. So let's do it one more time. I'm waiting for that. Let me see. I don't want to enter it through the browser, in the browser console. Whenever this is taking a bit of time to come in. So just to show that everything is working fine. Okay. 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 So I'm in now. You can see if I do npm list, you can see it's running. Despite the fact that we just restart the entire thing, is running. And if I go to my instance, okay, I think I can just reload this. Just confirm that the public IP address, I think the public IP address have changed. So I can just replace it. Replace this with the new IP address. And if you look at this, voila, everything is working perfectly. So that's how you set up a MERN stack in production. Thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask in the comment section. I'll do my best to answer every other question. Thank you, and God bless.